A 90s sitcom phenomenon, Seinfeld was ostensibly a series about the mundane life of four friends in New York City. Often referred to as a show about nothing that became everything, Seinfeld had a deep-rooted genius that thrived on turning the trivial into the epic. Whether it was turning a lost car in a garage into an odyssey, or flipping waiting for a table at a Chinese restaurant into a masterclass in comedic timing, Seinfeld always found a way of taking the everyday man's struggle and weaving it into a web of comedy that somehow made you laugh so hard that you would forget how relatable the frustration was. Furthermore, the writing was also something noteworthy for a sitcom of its time, as the show's refusal to moralize, its characters broke traditional storytelling norms by exploring the flip side of the possibility of change and growth. The characters weren't trying to learn life lessons or strive to become better people, but were instead unapologetically self-absorbed, petty, and at times downright awful, but somehow we loved them even more for it. It was a sitcom that basically said, hey, life's ridiculous. Why not laugh about it? Even long after the age of waiting for weekly episodes to air on cable, Seinfeld still retains its popularity in this streaming age, and that popularity has simultaneously engraved its main cast in pop culture history as sitcom icons. Today's topic of discussion shall be the Seinfeld characters and how they've aged since we last saw them on the defendant's bench. Before we get to that slideshow, it would mean the world to us if you would kindly hit that subscribe button if you feel the need for a little bit of sentimentality in your life. Now, without much further ado, let's meet the gang. First on the list, we have Jerry Seinfeld. Apart from being the writer and creator of the show, Jerry would officially debut on his show as a semi-fictionalized version of himself when he was just 45 years old. Jerry, the show's version, was a neat freak comedian whose life was a non-stop observation of life's weirdest quirks. He was somehow both the voice of reason and the king of petty grievances, because who else but Jerry can honestly dump someone over eating peas one at a time? Whether it was obsessing over a girlfriend's manhands or debating the ethics of a double dip, Jerry lived in a world where social norms were meant to be dissected and mocked. And we loved him specifically for that reason, because other than his sneaker collection and glorious head of hair, Jerry was an easily detestable character. I'm guessing everything that annoyed us about Jerry was the fictional part of semi-fictionalized, because ever since the show left the air, Jerry, the man, has been on what could be described as a generational run. From producing, writing, directing, and hosting, Jerry essentially turned the world into his oyster, making him one of the richest entertainers by the age of 70. Jason Alexander was just 35 years old when he would join the Seinfeld ensemble as the lovable disaster George Costanza. Carrying the energy of someone who's lost the fight against the universe, George was the human embodiment of a perpetual bad day and a prisoner to his own insecurities of being bald, short, and stocky. Constantly not content with himself, George's insecurities often led to him scheming for the most basic things, whether he was faking a disability to get an executive job or plotting to marry into a wealthy family. George's plans always failed spectacularly, leaving him depressed more than ever and us dying of laughter. Post-Seinfeld, Jason Alexander embraced his George-ness and turned it into a long-lasting career. At the age of 65, he's done everything from Broadway to guest spots on TV. And while George was perpetually frazzled, Jason has aged with poise. He's still bald, but these days, it's less hapless schlub and more distinguished character actor. For the perfect blend of charm and chaos, up next, we have Elaine. At just 28, the hilariously ever-charming Julia Louis-Dreyfus would land the role of Jerry's ex-girlfriend turned bestie, Elaine. She was a smart, confident, and an unfiltered fox of a woman with a chaotic charm that could lead to a breakup over a punctuation error. Prone to overconfidence, Elaine had zero patience for stupidity and wasn't even afraid to throw hands or, more accurately, push someone across the room for something as small as a juji fruit. After Seinfeld, Julia became the queen of the small screen, with the new adventures of old Christine and Veep cementing her as a comedic goddess and racking her up an Emmy or 12 along the way. In recent years, though, Julia has been making a subtle switch to the big screens with 2 films scheduled for a later release date this year. Today, she is 64 years old and is still effortlessly glamorous. Laugh Factory legend / Public Enemy #1 Michael Richards was 40 years old when he first rose to fame by portraying the enigmatic Cosmo Kramer. Kramer was the ultimate wildcard, a man of mystery, odd jobs, and even odder ideas. Kramer's antics were as unpredictable as his hair. He was somehow both incredibly resourceful and utterly useless, which was what made him so hilariously endearing. Michael Richards, though destined for greatness, would unfortunately hit a major career snag after Seinfeld following a widely publicized on-stage incident in 2006 that left him exposed as a racist, and that's with a hard R. Well, he's kept a relatively low profile ever since. Not that he had a choice. I'm happy to report that the 75-year-old hasn't enjoyed the same level of success as his co-stars. And as for aging, he looks like how you'd expect a 75-year-old Kramer to look like, but with just a slight racist twist.